Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a massive, deeply ingrained myth about money. It's kind of wild to think about it this way, but we're looking at the core lessons from Robert Kiyosaki to figure out why making a huge income, surprisingly, doesn't automatically equal wealth. We are going to completely rethink how money flows, strip away all that complicated accounting jargon, and really look at the true mechanics of getting rich. Just listen to this quote for a second. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. Let that sink in. It hits hard, doesn't it? This basically sets our entire premise today. Society conditions us from a super young age to confuse liabilities with assets. Earning a massive paycheck, well, that won't make you rich if you're quietly bleeding cash on things you've been told are building your wealth, but are actually draining it. The whole game of wealth isn't about what you make. It's about what you acquire.
All right, Section 1, the number one rule. To really grasp this, we need a fundamental paradigm shift. And honestly, this is the absolute only rule you need to know if you want to gain control of your financial future. Here it is, completely stripped of all those fancy financial terms. An asset puts money in my pocket. A liability takes money out of my pocket. That's it. Notice how shockingly blunt that is? No CPA jargon, no massive spreadsheets required. If it feeds your wallet, it's an asset. If it eats your wallet, it's a liability. If you want to be rich, you simply spend your life buying things that put money in your pocket. If you want to struggle, well, you buy things that take it out.
Moving on to Section 2, 3 cash flow stories.
Because words really only go so far, let's look at the actual mechanics of how different people handle their money. Reading numbers is actually about looking for the plot of a story, and this brilliantly illustrates the foundation, the cash flow pattern of an asset. Notice the path here. It starts down on the balance sheet under assets and flows directly up into the income column. It directly feeds money into your pocket. We're talking about things like dividend-paying stocks, a rental property, maybe a profitable side business. It's not just a static object sitting around. It's an active cash generator working for you.
Now, contrast that with the cash flow pattern of a poor person. Think of this as the baseline survival mode that, unfortunately, so many people are stuck in. Money comes in from a job as salary, that's the income at the top, but look at where it goes. It goes straight out the door. It flows immediately into the expense column just to pay for basic necessary survival, taxes, rent, food, transportation, clothes. There's literally nothing left over to flow down into the asset column. It's a brutal cycle, and it explains exactly why getting ahead feels totally impossible when you're caught in it.
Let's move on and see how this builds when we look at the middle class. This is where the illusion of wealth really traps people. A salary comes in, and often a very good one. But notice the path here. It drops down into the liability column first. It goes to mortgages, car loans, credit card debt, school loans, and then it exits through the expense column. So they're earning more, sure, but their money is systematically exiting their pockets to pay off the liabilities they've accumulated along the way while trying to look successful. Finally, we see the cash flow pattern of a rich person, and wow, this part really shifted my perspective. It is the complete opposite story. The rich use assets, things like real estate, stocks, bonds, notes, intellectual property, to generate income. Just look at that top section. Rental income, dividends, interest, royalties. Their asset column is so robust that the income it generates covers all their expenses. What's brilliant here is that their assets act as a total replacement for a boss. They aren't relying on a salary from an employer. Their assets are doing absolutely all the heavy lifting to sustain their lives.
When we put these patterns side by side, the divergence is incredibly clear, and it really highlights the psychology of the rat race. On one hand, the middle class treats a pay raise as a reason to upgrade their lifestyle. It's that classic stress of trying to keep up with the Joneses. You get a raise, so you buy a bigger house or a nicer car, which just increases your liabilities and your ongoing expenses. You're literally just running faster on the exact same wheel. On the other hand, the rich get richer because they take any excess cash flow and constantly reinvest it right back into their asset column. Their assets grow, which means their income grows, and that wealth cycle rapidly accelerates.
Which brings us to Section 3. Your house is a liability.
Now brace yourselves for this one because we're about to challenge the ultimate sacred cow of the American dream. High emotions tend to lower financial intelligence, especially when it comes to home ownership. Now, what's undeniably clear when you map out the cash flow is the visual truth. Going back to our number one rule, a liability takes money out of your pocket. Follow the path for a house. It starts down in liabilities as a mortgage, and it continually pushes money out into expenses. Mortgage payments, property tax,
insurance, maintenance, utilities. Even when the mortgage is entirely paid off, those taxes and maintenance costs, they never stop. It is continually, relentlessly pulling cash out of your pocket.
But the real damage here is the severe opportunity cost. When you treat a house as your primary asset, you suffer some major hidden losses. First, loss of time. Money tied up in a house isn't growing in true income-producing assets. Second, loss of additional capital. Think about it. Every dollar spent on a new roof or a plumbing fix is a dollar not invested. And third, and maybe most importantly, a massive loss of education. Because the middle class ties up all their equity and savings in a house, they never have the play money required to actually enter the market. They never learn how the stock market or real estate investing actually works. Without that capital to practice with, they never gain the experience to become sophisticated investors. So they're left financially uneducated and forced to play it safe forever.
Let's look at Section 4, Escaping the Rat Race.
So, how do we actually break this cycle? We know the definitions, we've mapped out the visual flow of cash, and we've shattered the illusion of the house as a golden ticket. This brings us to the solution. So the crucial point is this incredibly powerful mindset shift. Treat every single dollar in your asset column as an employee. I absolutely love this concept. It's like a tiny worker. Once a dollar goes in there, never let it come out. Your money works 24 hours a day, it doesn't need sleep, it doesn't take vacations, and it can work for generations. You can keep your day job, you can be a great hardworking employee, but your ultimate focus must be on building that tireless workforce in your asset column.
And this leads us to a fascinating final distinction between how people buy luxuries. Because the rich do buy luxuries, but they buy them last. They build their asset column first, and then the income generated from those assets pays for the luxuries. The poor and middle class, they buy luxuries first, using debt and their own sweat and blood just to look rich. Think about it. The middle class buys the boat on a high-interest credit card just to look wealthy to their neighbors. The rich buy an apartment building, and the rent from that apartment building buys the boat. The rich let their assets buy their toys, the middle class mortgages their future for them.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for you to consider today. Look at your own life right now. Mentally audit your own balance sheet. How many dollars do you currently have working for you 24/7 in your asset column? Are you building an army of employees, or are you just working tirelessly to pay off liabilities disguised as assets? Take a hard look at your own cash flow story today and decide exactly how you want your next chapter to read.